Hello and welcome to this week's new book releases for the week of August the 12th. I'm Morgan. If this is your first time here, things will be mispronounced. We'll have timestamps per genre we talk about. And I was going to say which one's the big one, but I don't even remember. They might all be pretty evenly mounted this week. First up, we're going to move into fantasy with The Doors of Midnight by R.R. Verity. This is the second book in the Tales of Tremaine series, the first one being the first binding. In it, we are following Ari as he is recounting his story about how he became what he is. And I'm going to just read a snippet of this one's actual description because I don't think it gives much away for the first book. So, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but Some stories are hidden for a reason. All tales have a price, and every debt must be paid. I killed 3 men as a child and earned the name Bloodletter. Then I set fire to the fabled ashram. I've been a bird and robbed a merchant king of a ransom of gold, and I have crossed desert sands and cutthroat alleys to repay my debt. I've stood before the eyes of God, faced his judgment, and cast aside the 1,000 arrows that came with it. And I have passed through the doors of midnight and lived to tell the tale. My name is Ari. These are my legends, and these are my lies. Then we have The Dollmakers by Lynn Buchanan. This one says it's a novel of the frozen peaks. It is a standalone, though. So, It says a touch cozy fantasy, a touch horror. The Dollmaker is perfect for fans of Studio Ghibli films, works of T.J. Klune and Travis Baldree, and readers of Juniper and Thorn and the Goblin Emperor. In the country called One, dollmakers are vital members of the community. Apprentice Sheen of Pearl is a brilliant dollmaker. With her clever dolls, she intends to outsmart and destroy the Shad once and for all. A destiny she's worked her whole life toward accomplishing. But when the time comes for her dolls to be licensed, she's told her work is too beautiful and delicate to fight. A statement that wounds and infuriates her. The Shad killed everyone she's loved. How could her fate be anything but fighting them? This one did mention romance in its About It section, but I'm not sure if that plays like a bit part or a larger part. So I put this one in fantasy, and then it's close to romantasy, though. The romantasy comes next. Kitten feeding break completed. I don't think I actually read the summary for that one. Or the title. This is Mistress of Lies by K.M. Enright. It's the first in the Age of Blood series. Fate is a cruel mistress. The daughter of a powerful but disgraced blood worker, Shan Leclerc has spent her entire life perfecting her blood magic, building her network of spies and gathering every scrap of power she could. Now, to protect her brother, she assassinates her father and takes her place as the head of the family, and that's only the start of her revenge. Samuel Hutchinson is a bastard with a terrible gift. When he stumbles upon the first victim of a magical serial killer, he's drawn into the world of magic and intrigue he's worked so hard to avoid, and is pulled deeply into the ravenous and bloodthirsty court of a vampire king. Moving officially into romantasy, we have The Phoenix Keeper by S.A. MacLean. As head Phoenix Keeper at the world-renowned Zoo for Magical Creatures, Alia's childhood dream of conserving critically endangered firebirds seems closer than ever. There's just one glaring caveat. Her zoo's breeding program hasn't functioned for a decade. When a tragic phoenix heist sabotages the flagship initiative at a neighboring zoo, Alia must prove her derelict facilities are fit to take the reins. Right? Yeah. But saving an entire species from extinction requires more than a stellar animal handling skills, especially when that hotshot griffin keeper happens to be her arch rival from college, Luciana, an annoyingly brooding and insufferable know-it-all with the face of a goddess who's convinced that Alia's beloved phoenix would serve their cause better as an active performer rather than a passive conservation exhibit. Next up, we have the conclusion to the Flesh and Fire series, Born of Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. It's said to be the beginning of the sprawling Blood and Ash saga, an epic fantasy living in the Chosen One space. This life and death journey is as much romance as it is action. Join Sierra as she faces and perhaps defies the destiny she never chose. So this takes way in the past of Blood and Ash. Is the camera crooked? Next, we have a retelling of sorts. It's The Palace of Eros by Caro de Robertis. Young, headstrong Psyche has captured the eyes of every suitor in town and far beyond with her tempestuous beauty. When her father realizes that the future of his family and town will be forever cursed unless he appeases an enraged Aphrodite, he follows the orders of the oracle, tying Psyche to a rock, and yet a monster never arrives to destroy her. It said other words, but we're trying to keep it PG. When Eros, non-binary deity of desire, sees Psyche, she can't fulfill her promise to her mother Aphrodite to destroy the mortal young woman. Instead, Eros devises a plan to sweep Psyche away to an idyllic palace, hidden from the prying eyes of Aphrodite, Zeus, and the outside world. There, against the dire dictates of Olympus, Eros and Psyche fall in love, but each morning Eros flies away before light comes to break the spell of the palace that keeps them safe. Then in contemporary romance, we have The Breakup Pact by Emma Lord. June and Levi were best friends as teenagers until the day they weren't. Now June is struggling to make rent on her beachside tea shop. Levi is living a New York cliché as a disillusioned hedge fund manager and failed novelist, and they've barely spoken in years. But after they both experience public, humiliating breakups with their exes that spread like wildfire across TikTok, rabbit holes, and daytime talk shows alike, they accidentally make some juicy gossip of their own. A photo of them together has the internet convinced they're a couple. With so many people rooting for them, they decide to put aside their rocky past and make a pact to fuel the fire. Pretending to date will help June's shop get back on its feet and make Levi's ex realize that she made a mistake. Then in YA, we have the conclusion of the House of Dead duology, Ghostsmith by Nikki Palparetto. In the Dominions, the dead linger, violent and unpredictable, unless a bonesmith severs the ghost from its earthly remains. And for Bonesmith Rin, becoming a Valkyr, a ghost-fighting warrior, is a chance to solidify her place in the noble House of Bone and impress her frequently absent father. So that was what she was doing in Bonesmith. And in Ghostsmith, though, she is having to deal with the revelations at the end of that book. As in the first book, she went after a kidnapped prince from the House of Gold to reclaim her honor and make her father appreciate her. And her and the prince had to work together, actually, along with someone else. What house was he from? Iron? No. Someone from an enemy house, though. They had to work together, and they uncovered lots of mysteries, and this is a horrible description. I'm so sorry. I really enjoyed the first book, though. Our next YA is more of a thriller, Under the Surface by Diana Urban. Ruby is terrified to cave to her feelings for Sean and risk him crushing her heart. Sean is pumped to spend a week with Ruby in Paris on their senior class trip, but he'll wait however long until she's ready to make their relationship. But when Ruby's best friend sneaks out the first night to meet a mysterious French boy, Ruby goes after her two classmates, but caves to other temptation, attending the mystery boy's exclusive party in the Paris catacombs, the intricate web of tunnels beneath the city. Home to 6 million long-dead Parisians, only they never reach the party. Underground, as something sinister chases them, they get lost in the endless maze of bones, uncovering dark secrets about the catacombs and each other, and if they can't find a way out, they'll die in the dark beneath a city of light. Moving into adult thrillers, we have Glass Houses by Madeline Ashby. I seem to have forgotten the first paragraph, but it's something about as a group office retreat where their yacht sinks, and they end up on an island with a house that's fully decked out in tech. It says, luckily, those who survived have found a beautiful, fully stocked private palace with all the latest technological updates, though one without connection to the outside world. The house, however, has more secrets than anyone might have guessed, and a much darker reason for having been built and left behind. Kirsten, a hyper-competent chief emotional manager, a position created by her eccentric, boyish billionaire boss, Sumter, is trying to keep her colleagues stable throughout this new challenge, but staying sane seems to be as much of a challenge as staying alive. Moving into another techno thriller, The Editors by Stephen Harrison. Aim for neutrality. We need better sources. Anonymity is fundamental. Keep developing. Freelance journalist Morgan Wentworth, recently laid off from PopFeed News, attends the Global Infopendium conference in New York, expecting a straightforward story to help her pay rent. But the so-called Pendium people are full of surprises. PhDs rub shoulders with high school students, all quoting the project's rules and regulations like a second language. Sure, millions of people see the facts curated by these editors, but who really cares about the free encyclopedia? When a hacker attacks the conference and posts a cryptic message, it becomes clear that somebody does. And Morgan decides to find out who, but the path through an online information war is far from clear. Foreign governments, billionaires, and a global virus threaten to sway the truth of Infopendium. Next up is Worst Case Scenario by TJ Newman. If you're looking for chills and nonstop action, start here. Don't read this one if you're afraid of flying. When a pilot suffers a heart attack at 35,000 feet, A commercial airliner filled with passengers crashes onto a nuclear power plant in the small town of Wauketa, Minnesota, which becomes ground zero for a catastrophic national crisis with global implications. The International Nuclear Event Scale tracks nuclear disasters. It has 7 levels. Level 7 is a major accident, with only 2 on record, Fukushima and Chernobyl. There has never been a level 8, until now. Then a slightly different one, The Girl in the Bog by Keith Donahue. One morning in a field in Connemara, a farmer unearths the body of a young woman, 2,000 years old, preserved under layers of peat. Later that evening, she awakens in unfamiliar modern Ireland, ripping a hole through space and time, setting awhirl old animosities and long-held grudges. Shadowy figures follow her from the pagan past, and each emerges with a claim on the girl from the bog. With help from a trio of wannabe teenage witches, she goes on the run. Joining in the chase is an American archaeologist who wants to keep the discovery for herself and 2 befuddled farmers trapped in the plot. We end with a historical fiction retelling, Lady Macbeth by Ava Reid. The lady knows the stories, how her eyes induce madness in men. The lady knows she will be wed to the Scottish brute, who does not leave his warrior ways behind when he comes to the marriage bed. The lady knows his hostile, suspicious court will be a game of strategy, requiring all her wiles and hidden witchcraft to survive. Those are all the books I have for you on this week's list. If you do know of any coming out, though, that I didn't mention and you want people to know about them, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. Maybe you are able to find something to pick up on this list, or just the new series to be on the lookout for, or to pick up since some of them are concluding. I hope that you enjoyed this video. You'll come back for more of them, and subscribe if you like my content. Hopefully you're finding something awesome to read today, and I'll see you in the next one.